people. The only people we're missing are going to be SHP, Jeff.
I'm here.
Okay, Jeff.
Oh, hi,
Yep,
Jeff.
Jeff and Emily.
Oh, perfect. He was hiding. He was under my arrow.
Okay.
Okay, so welcome everyone to this special meeting, very important meeting. I can see like watching your electric meter spin when you have your air conditioner on. I'm seeing that with what we're going to talk about today. So I want to thank the board members who are here, and in the interest of everyone's time, we will get started on time. And Angela, please take the roll.
Mr. Allen, Miss Baker,
Here.
Miss Lear, here, Mr. McCoy, Miss Queen,
Here.
Miss Skinner,
Here.
Mr. Teedy. Thank you.
Okay, so we are here to discuss one thing, and in order to do that, we need to pass a motion so that we can have the conversation about it. So I am looking for a motion to approve the bids for furniture and millwork for the New Liberty Library branch.
So move.
Thank you. A second?
I will second. It's Connie.
Thank you. And I'm turning this over to Michelle. Am I, Molly?
I believe Michelle or Jeffrey is who I'm thinking.
Yeah, and this is all about a change order.
Yes.
Well, it's partly about a change order. The change order was always going to be there. It's the amount of the change order. So we'll turn it over to them, and board members jump in with questions if you have them. Michelle?
I'm happy to tee it up.
Hi, Jeff.
Michelle, if that's
Hi.
okay. Hi, everybody. So sort of a change order. One piece would be a change order, but actually the balance of what would be approved today is not a change order. You would be entering into new contracts with 3 vendors who would be providing 3 different components related to furnishings, interior, exterior, and then also millwork. And then the change order piece would actually be about an $88,000 component to marker for some additional millwork inside of the library. So I know some material was circulated, I think, as part of like a board packet prior to the meeting. So I can describe the process for everybody if you'd like me to, of maybe what we've done over the last 12 months as we've been working on furniture specifically, and then certainly kind of what that has resulted in over the course of the last 30 days. And Emily, as well as Jenny, 2 of our senior interior designers, really ran point on this. So Emily, correct me when I say something incorrect, which I likely will do. And actually I have a little slide deck. If you guys are okay with it, I'll just call it up on my screen because it is relatively succinct and hits a lot of these points. And I'm going to do this from Google, which I don't normally use. So please confirm that you can see what I'm sharing.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So I'll step through this kind of quickly, and then if you have any questions about anything, let me know. So we put out 2 packages after developing all the furniture plans and specifications and all the detail and selection of finishes for each. We put out 2 packages, and I see already that I have a typo on the sheet, but we put out an interior furnishings package and an exterior furnishings package.
Excuse me, Jeffrey, your sound is really wonky.
Bear with me for 1 second.
Sure, thanks.
Wonky, like you can't hear me?
Yeah, you're kind of in and out, squishy.
I can hear him fine. But then I'm used to squishy.
Is that squishy? Here, I'll put my mic a little closer to my
That
face.
might help. That might help.
Okay.
Thanks.
Excuse me. So we put out, after developing the packages again over the course of probably close to a year, we put out 2 distinct packages for bid. Those went to 7 pre-qualified furniture dealers that we routinely see in the library world. That first package went to 7 dealers. Second package went to the same 7 dealers. You can see that we received 6 proposals on one and 4 proposals on the other. We then proceeded through scope reviews, not unlike we did with Michelle and her team running point on the building construction, to vet to make sure that we were seeing apples to apples comparisons, that folks had the same quality and components from one vendor to another. and ultimately to make sure that we had leveled out equal bids as best that we could. We are also able, since you guys are a public agency, to utilize state term pricing for some of these components. So that we focused specifically with Library Design Associates, who are maybe like the Kleenex of the library furniture world. For a simple analogy, you can see the components that we went directly to them for. And I think, if I remember correctly, Delaware Library already had an existing relationship with LDA, and they've helped on some of your other branches. We then also had a package for some, I'm sorry, just a little bit of additional information that I just alluded to about cost, quality of products, et cetera. What you'll see on the spreadsheet that was distributed for your review is that we're making a recommendation for the interior stuff to be awarded to Continental Office Environments, to the exterior stuff to go to King Business Interiors.
Jeff,
Yes.
this is Beth Lear. So 2 slides ago, I apologize because I'm muting and unmuting because I have loud dogs. What I saw was that there were 2 opportunities that went out to bid on interior. Did I miss something? Was one of those supposed to be exterior? Because I guess I don't understand why we would have
Yes.
gone out. Okay.
Yes, that I mentioned that I had a typo on that slide.
Typo. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let me get back to where I was. So again, formal recommendation relative to the bid packages. One will go to Continental Office Environment. One will go to King Business Interiors. I know there was a question that was circulated via email prior to this call regarding the initial placeholder of a budget that we had developed with Marker many moons ago, in the very earliest stages of scoping out the project, even going all the way back to whether it was going to be 2 stories or 3, and whether it was going to be 25,000 square feet or 43,000 square feet. We've obviously ended up with a 3-story building that is closer to 43,000 square feet. That placeholder, which again was noted as such, along with about 5 or 6 other line items on that original budget, was simply a plug number to put something on a budget, to put something on a spreadsheet that we knew would be at least a launching off point for once we then, after the building was designed and really began to focus on the detail associated with the furniture, would adjust as we started to confirm exactly what the library wanted, what quality, what level of finish, if it had integrated technology, you name it, all the bells and whistles that go into that furniture selection process. The other 2 bullet points on here, we did not have any money in originally in any sort of exterior furniture. That's worth roughly $80-some thousand right now as one of those line items. And then similarly, we pulled out that interior custom millwork from Marker's scope originally, thinking that we would work with Library Design Associates on that. That is now going back into Marker's side of the equation because they're much more competitive. But that was a number that, again, had been pulled offline.
Okay, so I have another question.
Mhm.
So you are, if I'm hearing you correctly, the 550 initial placeholder amount was based on the library building that we initially expected would be approximately half the size of what we ended up building?
Yeah,
And that-
about 70% of the size, and the way that we typically do that at a very early stage is simply run a dollar per square foot number over the anticipated square foot for the target for the new building, and that's how we come up with a placeholder number on day one. Probably should have been updated, admittedly, once we got into the weeds a little bit earlier in the process. But honestly, we also didn't really start to see significant pricing increase in particular on that line item until halfway through the pandemic. So the furniture stuff really started to escalate, not day one of 2020 when we all went home, but much later. So
this is Brad Allen. Can you hear me?
yes, sir.
I apologize for being late. I couldn't find the link to the meeting, but so I'm not sure what I missed. So if I'm repeating stuff, I hope not. When we went over budget, approximately 100%. My first question is, and you've alluded to this a little bit already, how much of that is quantity related, i.e. it was based on a smaller library, versus how much of it is quality based, meaning quality of interior fit out being class A, class B, class C, for lack of any other terminology, versus how much approximately is inflation related?
If you're looking at the spreadsheet, you can see what we're looking at my screen right now. You'll see what we've been tracking recently on the impact of furniture. So that's an easy enough thing to answer there relative to the components plus then the labor to install it plus the freight to ship it to the project site. Emily can maybe speak a little bit more eloquently to the quality level, but I don't know that there's anything that where you have specified that is like, you know, the Tesla model. I think it is just good quality, expected level of fit and finish for a public library. Nothing crazy, nothing super expensive, and also nothing dirt cheap that you're going to be replacing in 2 years.
Yeah, I was gonna chime in there and just say, you know, working with George and Molly, we kind of talked through and worked through a lot of items that would kind of help get you a little bit more bang for your buck, but not sacrifice quality. So we definitely didn't pick top of the line items. We went from, you know, wood tables, which we originally had quoted, down to something that was a little bit more mid-level, but still high quality for a public use space.
So you're basically then saying that most of the variance is quantity and price related. Quantity meaning size of library increase, and it's disappointing that we didn't recast that. And then of course, price from the inflationary standpoint.
I think it falls into really probably 3 categories. One is a little bit of the additional square footage, because keep in mind in the basement, a lot of it is half of it is a storage area. So it's not like the increase in square footage was the full 20,000 extra square feet for the lower level. So I think there is a piece of it that is tied to just a little bit of additional furniture based upon the slightly larger occupiable footprint.
Yeah, I remember conversations about the basement wasn't going to be finished out like we had hoped to begin with. So
yeah,
there wasn't any additional surprising expenses related to that area.
Yeah, correct. I mean, if we go back to the earliest incarnations of the planning process, the library was just going to be built as the lower level was just going to be built as a shell to give you the flexibility to do stuff at some point in the future. So there is certainly a piece of it that would be tied to that, a little bit of additional square footage on the lower level. There are the 2 line items that I mentioned on the previous slide for exterior furnishings and for the millwork. That were 2 line items that together represent about $170,000 that didn't show up on that original spreadsheet anywhere. And then the third piece is, yes, the increase in cost over the course of the last 12 to 16 months.
Okay, so assuming that it's justifiable, the quantity, the quality, the inflation aspect, and it all makes sense. My next question would be, we're showing that we saved $187,000, which is disingenuous because we didn't save $187,000. We're spending 100% more compared to the $550K. So the fact that we cut out from the original today actual estimate to get the costs down, how much of that is cutting fat versus muscle versus bone?
I'm sorry, Brad, where are you getting that number?
That spreadsheet here, actually.
Yeah, that George's budget summary, the very bottom number, it says $187,000 savings, which is silly, frankly. I think he's inferring that the actual versus the rebid to try to bring the costs down saves us $187,000, but it doesn't address the elephant.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, again, I don't want to go back and say that the 550 was a budget. It was a placeholder. It was a plug. It was not something that was an official agreed to number that we were going to work with. It was simply a placeholder, just like the 5 or 6 other things on there that probably total up to almost $1 million. I personally have no idea if the board has enacted or included any or all of those. I have no idea what you guys have spent on legal. I have no idea what you guys spent on the land purchase. So any of those items that were identified as red as a placeholder were simply that. So okay. So, and then process wise, which I do think you missed before you hopped on, in the rebid process, in the scope review process, where we can, where you're seeing that cost reduction, and Emily can chime in here too. It really is honestly no different than the process we went through with Marker and their subs as they were beginning to award contracts, and we were finding opportunities from the subcontractors for more efficient ways to construct things, for options for alternative materials, maybe had a better lead time or maybe came in at a better price point, but generally speaking, we're the same level of quality. So that is all part of the process of finding opportunities for cost control, whether you call it a scope reduction or a value engineering or just sharpening the pencil through spending time with each of these vendors and subcontractors in refining what they're going to provide and leveling it up to make sure that we are getting a true apples to apples comparison from vendor A to B to C to D. That's the process that we go through.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that there is no muscle or bone cut. It's purely fat. Efficiencies.
And I don't know.
Are we only getting 90% of the furniture that we originally hoped for? Or
I can maybe speak to that a little bit, because George and I were in this process with Emily and Jenny. We went through floor by floor, room by room, and looked at each piece. And we evaluated whether we really needed that piece, whether that, honestly, we even thought we had some extra in there that was pretty easy to cut, because growth wise, we're going to be able to move and evaluate with the community. But when we open, the furniture that we have left will look welcoming, will look full. It won't look like we have these empty spaces or anything like that. So I think you're right on the fat. Some of the extra stuff, we looked at price of a few things. There were some things that were way more expensive, and we're like, we could easily go with one of these chairs and look beautiful, still has the seating that we're going to need for the public, still have those pieces. So we really did go through, and I think you're right on using that phrase, cut the fat, the things that we didn't need that we could still make the building look beautiful, be functional, and have those pieces. Is that what you're asking there?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that one of the floors was not going to be missing furniture.
Yep.
Or that
Yeah.
how part of the books were going to be stacked on the floor, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
For
Because
example,
all you're doing, if that's, and I'm being exaggerative just for illustration, but all you end up doing is kicking the can down the road, because sooner or later you're going to still want to buy that stuff. So can you, with straight face, say that this budget is sufficient such that you're not going to be coming back to the board 3 months, 6 months from now and saying, oopsie daisy, we need more shelving, we need more furniture, we need more X, Y, and Z, when the board is sitting here already at a 100% overage in a sense compared to the placeholder, and shame on whoever that never took that placeholder further. That's an embarrassment. I'm a CPA, and having that type of a surprise is indigestion.
Sina, we can't hear you.
I wasn't.
Sina.
Did you hear indigestion?
Sina was speaking, but you're muted.
Oh,
Sina,
I'm
there you
sorry.
go.
My clicker is on. I'm a CPA too, but I know that we anticipated some changes when we put that placeholder in, especially, it was during the pandemic and there were so many unknowns. And so for me, that is not a surprise.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a bigger picture question that goes beyond furniture to the board members specifically. Can any of you state what the original budget all in for this library was, and what it's projected to be now. And by all in, I mean land, development, hard costs, soft costs, fit out, everything that goes from vacancy to opening the door. What's that total going to be?
That's not a fair question to ask on the spot because things have changed and they will continue to change.
But is it 14 million?
And that's why we meet and why the committee has met throughout time was to address these issues.
It was you can say it's an impromptu, but it's kind of a trick question because I'm not sure that the compilation of that number exists anywhere.
Oh gosh, I've got it here. Hang on. The very initial.
No, not just initial. Well,
Brad, we didn't sit down.
If it exists, all I'm saying is if it exists from initial, and then hopefully it would exist as of now, what's the remaining cost projected to be, then all of us should readily know it's 14 million, 15 million, 16 million. But the problem, I wasn't on the finance committee initially. Library was already being decided to be built. Then the guaranteed maximum price was decided on. And once I'm on the finance committee, I discover that there had never been a complete 100% in the basket. This is everything it's going to cost from inception to opening the door. And why do I say that? If you think back to my financial analysis that I spent until 3 a.m. one time putting together, I see Yasina. Let me just finish. The only cost components I was given for that was guaranteed maximum price and the $1.8 million of FF&E. As I've now seen the architect's budget, that was missing $1.2 million of soft cost. It's of course now missing the overage of furniture. So I can't believe that anybody has a handle on what is the cost of this library going to be projected, obviously, because we're probably going to have some more surprises come completion and opening day. And that makes me nervous because if we have this surprise, what other surprises are we going to have? I attempted to take piece parts of the information that I've gotten over the course of time to try to come up with that number. And short of asking the architect some questions such as whether contingencies are still in play or not, there was like a $500,000 owner's contingency, and there's another $500,000 design contingency that S&P had out there. I don't know if those are still in play or if they got baked into the guaranteed maximum price, et cetera, et cetera. Do you understand why I'm a little bit on edge? I don't really know what the final cost of this library is slated to be because it's like herding cats. Now, I'm more than happy for somebody to prove me wrong because I'm not that proud of a guy. I will easily admit, and you could ask staff from my past, that I would obviously say, oh, that was stupid when I did something stupid. It makes you real. So I don't have a problem with admitting I'm wrong, but for everybody to just passively aggressively discount what I'm talking about is a little concerning. And I'm not saying you have because I haven't given you a chance yet, but thus my original question, is this library coming in at 14 million, 15 million, 16 million, or 17 million? It's a pretty wide latitude. And I don't know that anybody knows that answer.
Sina?
As far as I know, the original was about 14 and it's not that far from 14 as we speak.
I don't think, Brad, this might be the first time that you've ever experienced a build out project and it being in a board position and kind of being responsible for a project like this. But there's no point in time on day one when we have a number that includes everything, period, from buying the land to cutting the ribbon, There is no such thing in any such project anywhere, anytime, and Jeffrey and Michelle back me up on this. Never mind what's happening with the economy and supply, and never mind all of that. There's just no such thing as. These budgets are fluid. We didn't go from 14 million to 17 million. We didn't go from 9 million to 14 million. And that's just chalk it up to experience that this is so the next big project, Brad, that you're involved in, you'll know that there is no such thing as a starting point that has an end number. It just doesn't, it's just not the way things go. You're building a house, you're whatever, it's just not how things go. And then you add all these other factors in. I don't think anybody was not watching. I don't think anybody was hiding anything. This is the way these projects go. That's just, it's the organics of any project. We're not.
I hear what you're saying, but the 14 million, for example, that number, based on my scheduling out the piece parts and the multi-angles of which I've gotten stuff, that does not include the fixtures, technology, or collection, for example, the books. And that's what I mean. When I'm talking, what's this library costing us? A building without books is worthless. So the $984,000 of the collection is what I'm talking about. And where are we at? 15 million, 16 million? Because that's close to $1 million that was not in the $14 million number. We've now got a $500,000 overage of $500,000 overage of furniture. Now, granted, maybe if the SHP can tell me that their design contingency of $500,000 that was 5% is no longer needed, well, that would absorb some of that topic. But I'm contending that none of us know that answer. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong, but that's not what we're here for today. I take your point. We've been scolded. We get it. We share some of your issues, but we're not as afraid of them because we've been with this project longer, and some of us have been through projects like this before. But what we're here today to do is approve the millwork and the furniture for the new library branch. That's the motion that's on the floor.
And the reason I bring all of this up is that I'm hesitant to do such until I have a better handle on where is the overall financial condition of this project. And
Well,
Holly, let me remind you, I have worked in construction in the financial arena. So you're suggesting that I don't have, or I lack some knowledge on some things is, well, you know where I'm headed. I'll leave it at that.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the bid for the furniture and the millwork for the new library. And Brad, this doesn't mean this conversation is over overall, because I hear your frustration, but we're going to vote on this now so we can move forward.
Holly, is it okay if I ask a couple more questions?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm wondering back to the overall square footage change. What percentage increase, if anybody can tell me, is the new library building, not including the unfurnished part of the basement? So it sounds like we didn't double the size because we've got the basement in there. So is it like a 30% increase, or?
If you give me like 5 minutes, I can probably calculate that for you. But again, on the fly, that'll just take a few minutes to get into the computer and figure that out.
I can ask my second question while you're calculating.
I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can multitask. Go ahead.
Awesome. You are awesome. Okay, so I actually had to change rooms so that it wasn't so loud. So I've got to go back and figure out what was my second question. Following up on the square footage issue, I'm just concerned about this being taxpayer money. The 58 point something % increase in the price of steel for the shelving. Is there any other product that we could get that would be equally good, but not as expensive or not as large of an increase? Or is the steel shelving still the best option even at the increased price, and like wood or aluminum or something would not be comparable cost wise.
Yes.
Yeah, there's really one type of shelving that really holds up in public libraries, and that's the steel shelving that we're looking at. It's part of why we work with library design on that too, because there is nothing that is comparable to being able to take the kind of use that we have on public library shelves.
Okay, so here's my last question. This is just a week from our regularly scheduled board meeting. And to me, it's really important that we have the opportunity for the public to weigh in. And I know this is officially a public meeting, but I'm wondering if there's any way that we would be able to go ahead and postpone this until next Tuesday, when we hopefully will have the whole board here, because it's only a week. And with the Easter weekend, I don't think that's going to be much movement, much change.
Yeah, Beth, this is not a conversation in which we hear from the public and they say, spend this money, don't spend this money. It's not that kind of thing. We're responsible for building this library. We unfortunately have these overages because of everything that's going on, and as we sit here, the price goes up. So Jeff, do you have an answer to Beth's first question?
I'm still working on it.
I agree with you, Holly. It's our responsibility to build this for the public.
Yeah. So I don't know if the answer that Jeff is looking for is relevant to voting on this motion. But the answer was that when we decided to put the basement in, this furniture bid the basement is not a huge part of that, because most of the basement is not furniture. I think that was the basis of your question, and he's looking up a percentage for you. But in the meantime,
So that tells me that quantity of furniture doesn't explain the large variance. If we went up 100%, let's just use round numbers. If we went up $500,000, you have a choice. Either we had 100% inflation, there's no way, or we had doubling the size of an amount of furniture needed, no way, from what I'm hearing. And you're telling me that we really haven't changed plus or minus the quality in any discernible fashion. So all I can do is boil it back to being very irresponsible in never adjusting that placeholder number from the get-go. And that's very
Brad,
concerning.
if we had adjusted that placeholder number to, and it would have been a wild ass guess then too, if somewhere 6 months ago we would said, you know what, let's adjust this number. What do you want it to be? Okay, let's guess. Will it be 750,000? How would that change today's conversation? And Jeff, you did have a slide a while back that listed the reasons for the price increase. If you would put that back up, please, and then we're gonna vote on this and we're gonna move on.
Yep. I can find the right thing.
There it is, yes.
Whoop.
Oh, you had it. That's pretty clear and substantial. I think that answers your question. And if it doesn't, then the insinuation is somebody's hiding something, because that's pretty clear. I think that's comprehensive.
And
I hate it too. It is what it is. It's not pleasant.
And it's completely impossible to know a quote until you get bids in. So
yep,
it's just impossible. And everything has gone up in the construction world, everything.
So this is not a roll call vote, Angela, is it?
No,
No, I
that's
didn't
not
think so.
necessary.
Okay, so
I
we
thought
are
it-
voting on
I
the
thought
motion.
Wait. I thought it showed as a roll call vote on the
No.
agenda.
Nope.
No,
Roll call for To open the meeting, yes.
I called the
not-
roll when we came in, and I just marked you came in at 3:06.
We open every meeting with a roll call.
Right.
But this motion doesn't require a roll call to pass. Some do, some don't. It's tricky.
Jeff,
So-
did you have any more information to share with us from your slides?
Just the second one, which is
Oh,
again,
okay.
kind of the summary of who's going to be awarded
Okay.
what.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay, so all in favor of approving the motion, the bids for the furniture and millwork for the new library branch, all in favor?
Aye.
Show of hands. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion passes.
I'm sorry I couldn't show you my hand, Holly.
It's fine. I appreciate the piping in. Jeffrey,
As
Michelle,
a
Emily?
follow-up, can I do a follow-up to my
Sure.
vote?
Sure.
You're going to have a hard time getting me to vote for anything going forward until I see the latest projection of all-in costs for this facility. Meaning from the day we decided to hire an architect until the day we let the first patron in, what is that cost projected to be? Not just land or hard cost or soft cost or interest or books or computer equipment, everything. Because just because we borrowed the maximum permitted by law, which now is making sense to me based on how we're managing this project of $11 million, I'm not going to treat this project like it's a blank check.
Okay, so noted. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a happy Easter and we will see you all Tuesday. Jeffrey,